Any views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on the Rejuvenating Health podcast are solely those of the speakers and are intended as such. Please consult your trusted healthcare practitioner for medical advice. Let's go, girls.
Welcome back to the Rejuvenating Health podcast. I am Coach Lakin, and as always, I'm joined with Dr. Lindsay in the house. And today we are going to finish up the second half of our Ask Us Anything episode that we started last week. So we got through about 7 of the questions. And if you guys remember, we left off on talking about peptides and the new peptides that we're rolling out. And again, coming back to the same, effective message that we can continue to try to look for easy buttons, but at the end of the day, we have to include the lifestyle component of it to get the results that we're wanting to. And while peptides are really hot right now and it's, really fascinating and they can be really, really beneficial, where the conclusion is still out because we're basically doing a giant human trial right now with everything that's available to people.
Right. And they're just, I don't, so everyone's freaking out about P&G buying Thorne, right? Because it's a big company and big pharma and all that type of stuff. But there's also a huge issue of probably something like big wellness coming, right? Big pharma prescribes drugs, but I don't know that sometimes the wellness industry is any better. Everyone's trying to profit off of your supplements and your peptides. Yes, at Rejuvenating we charge, but we're not telling you to buy crap. We're telling you, you're getting coaching, right? All of the internet is everyone's trying to biohack something.
To find the quick fix or the easy route or a product that will solve the things so you don't have to do the quote unquote hard things.
Right. So I think that that's just as bad as pharmaceuticals, right? If you really stop and think about it, everyone gets mad at big soda and big pharma and big all of these things, but we're starting to really flip the opposite direction and people are spending outlandish amounts. Yes, it's not a medication, but it's a med's a simple fix, and so is biohacking, if you're trying to do it instead of doing the stuff that goes along with it.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the potential negative downsides to it, right? It's when we're looking at the potential negative side effects of some of these things that are known, but still they're pushed because it's all about the bottom line, right?
Yeah.
And that's not, and the thing is we don't know what is going to come out of a lot of these things because they're not as rigorously tested as things are in pharmaceuticals. So I'm sure that's going to continue to develop over time and we'll see long term. But at the end of the day, we live in a country where capitalism rules and it is really all about who can make the most money and make the most profit out of what they're advertising. So just keeping that in mind, that's why we stick to the things that we know work and that will make a difference, because we can't purchase products that are going to overcome sedentary lifestyle and poor nutrition choices and not getting information about what's going on inside of your body and inside your head.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to peptides, if you're buying peptides from a med spa or someone off the internet, stop. Those need to be prescribed by a doctor and they need to be monitored by a doctor. Some of those things have you're messing with your growth hormones. And if you start messing with that stuff, you have potential for cancers. You should not just be willy-nilly taking peptides off the street from influencers. You need to be under a doctor's supervision if you're going to be doing these things.
Well, and there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? So it's while it may be seemingly really beneficial for this one thing that you want to get it for out of the jump, we don't know. And you don't know what that long-term effect is going to look like. And that may not feel very important right now, but I'd be willing to bet in 10 years, it's going to be really important then. Right? So just being smart about it and thinking about the big picture and also leaning into okay, what do I know will actually benefit me, even if it takes a little bit longer to do so.
Yeah. Okay. Rant over.
So yes, end rant. Next question. So the next question that came up was about carbs and specifically carbs in midlife. So the question is, why are carbs so important in midlife? And what's a realistic amount for someone who's always been low carb or has a fear of carbs? And I really like that she named the fear of carbs, right? Because that is something that's very real and something that a lot of women struggle with because of, cultural influences and diet culture and media messaging.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, if you're looking at it, like carbohydrates are an essential nutrient and like in exactly the same biochemical sense as amino acids and fatty acids because you can produce glucose through gluconeogenesis, right? So you don't have to have carbs, but that often gets transformed into like, okay, well, I don't have to have them, so carbs are unnecessary or carbs are bad, right? And that's not the same thing. Like carbohydrates are fiber. It is stuff that is needed for your gut microbiome, for your bowels. It's really important. They're also really important for active women, especially active women with high stress who are exercising, right? You cannot be doing low carb, no carb if you are doing high intensity exercise training, right? You're going to get into low energy availability and you're going to mess up your hormones even worse. And so I like I cannot train without carbs. I feel like I'm, right?
Tired.
Tired. But you need carbohydrates for your micronutrients. You're going to be missing out on your vitamins, your minerals, your phytonutrients, your fiber. Like if you look at the gut microbiome of someone on carnivore, it's not as healthy as someone on eating fruits and vegetables. And so not all carbohydrates are the same. Like fruit isn't equivalent to a donut just
Right.
because they're both carbohydrates. So, no, carbs are not bad, but yeah, donuts every day are bad. Like, so
Yeah,
it's the
it's
type
not
of
just like a
carbohydrate.
carb is a carb is a carb. It's like what is the makeup of that carb, and is it processed or is it whole food? And for I think for women that have a fear of increasing carbohydrates because of the weight gain that's going to come with it. Yeah, if you go from eating only 40 carbs a day to 150 a day, you are going to see some increase. And that's why we don't usually recommend that big of a jump, the same way that we do with protein, right? It's like we're going to meet you where you are and slowly increase it over time to get to where your metabolic needs are concerned. But it's all about, like you said, the stress on the system, right? That's why
Yeah.
it's so much more important in midlife. Not that it's not important outside of midlife. It's that stress is such a bigger factor in midlife because at that point there are a lot of other stressors on the system. And so we want to minimize stress load overall as much as possible.
I mean, I think a good rule of thumb is you need 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day, right? Like, if you're eating zero,
Which
don't go to
PS is
that.
more than you think it is, and almost
Yeah.
no one's getting that.
Yeah. And if you're eating zero, don't go do that because you're going to be real bloated and gassy. But you need 25 to 35 grams of carbs a day. And typically, if you match your carbs to your protein intake, you're probably doing pretty good. And if you need extra calories, you can add in some extra carbs or extra fats. But that's like a typical general rule of thumb. For me to tell you exactly how many carbs you need, like you need to go do an RMR test, not on an in-body, but like lay down and see what your body tolerates best and all that type of stuff. But generally speaking, that is pretty accurate.
Yeah, and making sure, and like you said, matching them to your intake, but also pairing them, right? So, like having carbs with our protein or with our fat source, because that's also going to help to prevent huge blood sugar spikes. And again, we're managing the stress on the system.
Yeah. And listen, if you go from no carb to carb, you're going to gain weight. Like
Mhm.
you're going to gain weight overnight. It's not weight. It's water. Like it is I mean, that's why like wrestlers, like my kid, like I don't let him do this, but wrestlers go sweat off 5 pounds and don't eat carbs. And then they gain 20 pounds the next day. Like,
Yeah.
so if you're adding back in carbs, if you've been very low carb and you're adding back in carbs, like you might see the scale increase initially. My advice to you would be to stay off the scale for a few weeks while you're increasing those carbohydrates and letting things balance out. Because when you do store more glycogen, you're also going to store water. And that doesn't mean that it's fat. It
Right.
just means that it's some water, right? And those types of things.
Yeah. And that's why we have to pay attention to things outside of just the number on the scale, because your body's also going to be responding favorably in a lot of other ways too.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you're going to start bringing in carbs and you've not been doing carbs, make sure that you're bringing in those high quality carbs, right? So fruit, potatoes, beans, lentils, oats, rice, quinoa, vegetables, not sugar.
Not gluten-free breads and pastas and, and not to say you can't ever have those things. It's just like that's not intended to be
Yeah.
the main
Yeah.
carb source, in the same way that like protein pancakes are not intended to be a main protein source. It's like, wait, let's stick to the whole foods as much as possible.
Yeah.
Next question is, can I build visible muscle in my 60s? Tell these ladies it's not too late.
Yeah, of course you can, right? Like it might be harder, right?
Hmm.
Like aging does change your physiology, but it doesn't eliminate your ability to adapt to resistance training, right? Like when you're older, you can absolutely increase strength and muscle mass, right? So one concept to like think about is anabolic resistance. So what that means is older muscle may be somewhat less responsive to anabolic stimulus compared to younger muscle, but that just means that the signal needs to be met. So you have to get the right signal in order for it to be effective. And so progressive resistance training matters a lot more. Your protein requirements matter a lot more, and your recovery matters a lot more. You have to get the right stimulus to make the muscle grow. You have to fuel that stimulus, and then you have to let it recover.
Yeah. So just like anything else, it's like as there are more factors or variables that need to be taken into consideration, it may be a little bit more difficult, but the right inputs will get us the output that we're looking for. It's just a matter of meeting the need for the right input. So it's like if we're talking about progressive resistance training, I think this is a really important point to emphasize on. And someone's listening and they're thinking like, okay, well, I lift weights at home, but I'm working with the 3 to 5 pound dumbbells and I just do the same routine like 2 times a week, right? It's like we have to be realistic of that's not progressive overload. That's not progressive resistance training.
Yeah, when I'm saying the muscle needs the right signal, it means like it needs a challenge. And as you grow stronger, that challenge is going to progress over time. So, how do you do that? You can increase resistance, you can increase reps, you can add more sets, you can do better range of motion, you can increase the difficulty of the exercise, you can make sure that you're doing everything with quality. And so, the exact way you do that depends on your abilities, your experience. But if you're doing the same workout for 3 years, doing the same weight, like you're not going to gain muscle. Your body has nothing to adapt to.
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
I like CrossFit because it's different every day.
Yeah, you don't really have the opportunity to plateau.
No,
Well, and like visible muscle, when we're thinking about that, right? Because visible is important. A lot of times we'll have ladies that, well, they're increasing muscle mass, but it's not necessarily giving them the aesthetic that they're looking for. So visible muscle also depends a lot on body composition.
yeah, I mean, building muscle and seeing muscle aren't exactly the same thing,
Right.
right? So I'm going to encourage women in their 60s, like you're going to have a little bit of extra fat and you're going to have a little bit less muscle. So you should probably think a little bit beyond aesthetics, right? And you should be strength training for your physical function, for your independence, for glucose disposal, for bone loading, for activities, fall prevention, all that type of stuff. Like, yes, you can absolutely see muscle in your 60s for sure. But if you've not trained a day in your life and you don't have the background of some muscular 60-year-old people, it is going to be a little bit harder for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you just need to adjust your training appropriately, and that's where it can be really helpful. Sometimes if you've never lifted a weight in your life, it is beneficial, especially if you are at an age where you have any fears associated with it, to work with a coach, at least to start out, just to make sure that you feel comfortable about what you're doing, and then you can start to work on your own outside.
If you've never weight trained, you should do a month, like 10 to 12 sessions with a PT or
Yeah.
someone watching you to make sure you're doing things right.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
even
and
if you're
then
just focused on form.
not even if, I mean, not even just 60-year-olds, 20-year-olds.
Yeah, anybody that has no resistance experience, no resistance training experience,
Yeah.
100%. And it's just worth it, right? It's like, again, it's that investment for the long-term gain. If you're doing things and you're not competent and not confident in doing them, how much are you really going to be willing to challenge yourself in those loads over time, right? As opposed to if you set a good foundation and you have the competence and build the confidence over time with those weights, you're going to be much more likely to increase that progressive overload over time and challenge your muscles appropriately to get the result that you're looking for. Next question. The $1,000,000 question. Why am I doing all the things and my weight is not moving?
Well, step one, what's all the things?
Right.
Because
It's
some
all
people
the
are,
things, Lindsay,
yeah.
everything.
I mean, some people are genuinely working really hard. They're just not pulling the right levers to match the outcome that they want. So in order for me to accurately answer that, I kind of need to investigate, like, what are all the things? So first is the time frame. Like, did your weight not change for 6 days, or has it been the same for 6 months? Like, your body changes a lot due to hydration and glycogen and sodium and bowel contents and inflammation and all that type of stuff.
And is your expectation around the timeline realistic?
Yeah. Second is, what's your energy intake? Regardless of your hormones, your energy balance still matters for body fat change. And estimating that is difficult. It's really hard to estimate what your body needs. And it's really hard to estimate how many calories that you're actually taking into your body, because people unintentionally eat more than they think. A
Mm-hmm.
lot. A lot. Unless you are physically bringing out a scale and weighing every gram of food that you're eating, you're cooking it all yourself. You know exactly what's going into it and you're calculating everything out to the minutia. You don't really know how many calories that you're eating.
Yeah.
And the
And it's
little
not to say that
bites
you
add up.
have to do
Mm-mm.
that. It's just recognizing that there is going to be a bias. Like we're almost always going to underestimate the intake and overestimate the output.
Yeah, because I mean, your Apple Watch probably overestimates your output a lot. And the opposite can be true too. Like, women can be chronically underfueled
Mhm.
and you can be less active outside of the gym. You can train poorly and end up with cycles of restriction and overeating. So that's kind of the second thing. Third is like protein and resistance training. If literally your whole entire focus is on losing weight rather than preserving your lean muscle mass, like, you're chasing the wrong measurement. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping?
One's the one that I think almost everybody across the board has an opportunity to improve. And
Not me.
when people are saying, except you, except you and your robot sleep don't count. We're taking you out of these metrics. But it's like almost everybody, that's why I said almost, has the opportunity to improve it. And when people say I'm doing all the things, if I would guarantee if you ask like how much are you sleeping each night, there's an opportunity that it could be better and that it could be, and if not better,
Yeah.
more consistent.
Yeah. Medical contributors, right? Do you have thyroid disease? Are you taking a medication that could make you gain weight? Do you have sleep apnea? Do you have insulin resistance and metabolic disease? Is your hormones causing weight gain? Like, you could be doing all the right things and have some underlying stuff that's making it to where you can't lose weight. Like, that really is a thing as well.
Yeah. 100%, but you won't know just by getting standard blood work done with your GP. It's like that's not going to give you the whole picture, and so that's where it gets frustrating because yes, at the end of the day, our medical system is not set up to be able to help you understand your body in a way that would identify any of these things, right? Some of them maybe, but most of them no. And so it really does come back to okay, there has to be some self advocacy and being able to be your own proponent of your own health journey to get the answers that you need if you feel like you are really doing all the things and nothing is shifting for you. And then
Yeah.
stress is obviously a
Oh,
huge one and one that impacts everybody,
right. And
including you.
it does include me. And I don't love telling women, like, your cortisol is high, so your body's holding on to fat. Like, that's really oversimplificating it. But your stress influences your appetite, your sleep, your alcohol consumption, your cravings, your activity, your recovery, your behavior. And cortisol does have a real effect on your metabolic health. But human weight loss is way more complex than like cortisol blocks fat. You can't just say that to someone.
Yeah, and just, punishing yourself harder, whether that's restricting more or working out more, that's not the answer either because that's impacting more stress on the system.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you say you're doing everything, collect better information, look at trends, measure your waist circumference, assess your strength, review your food intake, review your protein, look at your movement, your sleep, your meds, consider whether you need lab work. And a lot of times the solution isn't doing more. It's doing the right things consistently enough to produce that adaptation that your body's looking for.
Also being really honest in your self-reflection, that doesn't mean that listen, I'm not saying you're lying, right? But it is very easy to feel like we're doing all the things when we are putting in effort to change a few things. Because if I'm going from, not moving my body and eating out multiple times a week and not really paying attention to what I'm doing and staying up late at night and drinking wine every single night, if I'm going from that to strength training twice a week, getting a daily walk in, trying to be more mindful of my sleep and cutting out my alcohol, that's going to feel like I'm doing all the things,
Yeah.
right? But it still may not be getting to the point that my body needs to see a change in composition that's going to be effective externally in the aesthetic that I want, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're on your way and getting there, but we may not have reached that point, that set point to where the body's like, okay, now we're going to start to shift things when it comes to body composition. So
Yep.
that's where it goes back to that time frame. We may be doing a lot of things right now, but it may not be maximizing the potential on all the things that your body needs in order to shift the external aesthetic.
Yep.
All right, next question. This one's about like facial hair during menopause. So we hear a lot about hair loss during menopause. Again, another, $1 million industry trying to get women to retain their hair, right? With all these products. But
I
what about
know.
facial hair growth? How do you prevent or decrease it? And this is such a cruel irony for like what happens with women, right? Like losing hair where you want it and gaining hair where you don't want it. Yes, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, hormonal aging balances the balance between estrogen and androgens, right? And so your estrogen declines substantially across menopause, and your androgens also change with age, but maybe not at necessarily the same pattern or the same rate. We know that androgens can stay elevated with metabolic disease, right? So the relative hormonal environment can therefore make androgenic effects, hair growth, in women more noticeable. And so it's that. There's also genetics, like genetics and your follicle sensitivity matter. That can contribute to coarse hair on the chin, upper lip hair, other androgen sensitive areas. So
So it
not,
happens,
yeah.
but at what point should like facial hair popping up, out of nowhere in my, 40s be investigated instead of me just chalking it up to like, oh, well, that's just a part of aging?
I mean, if you have high androgenic symptoms, I'm talking about like deepening of your voice, significant hair loss on your scalp, acne, increased hair growth multiple places, even like clitoral enlargement. Like you should go get those checked out, especially if you're on testosterone. That's really not normal, right? But like depending on the presentation, the meds, like you should evaluate those androgen levels and investigate like what conditions are associated with that. Like because there are some medical conditions that are associated with that, and those need to be evaluated. If you're looking to manage, there's you can shave, you can wax, you can thread, you can laser, you can do like there's all kinds of even prescription treatments that are appropriate, right? Like, but just taking estrogen's not going to fix it.
Sticking with the hair loss, a question came in about hair loss attached to like nutrient deficiencies on GLP-1. So the question is, I'm concerned about hair loss and micronutrient deficiencies while on a GLP-1. I don't have these side effects yet, but I'm worried about them. What can I do to get out in front of them? And I like that we're talking, like she's bringing this up as a preventative, right? That she is aware of potential side effects that could come up down the line. And rather than waiting until something goes wrong, she wants to prevent it if possible.
Well, this is probably not going to answer that most people are going to like, but if those things are happening, then you're not doing the GLP-1 right. Like your hair should not fall out and you should be eating enough food that you should not have micronutrient deficiencies. GLP-1s don't necessarily mean you're destined to be nutrient deficient or lose hair. You have to keep your nutrients up when you're on these things, right? The bigger issue is that your appetite drops. And if you're taking so much, it becomes so suppressed that your total food intake drops so dramatically that you're eating half as much food as you should be. And then when the food that you are eating, you're not eating enough protein that has enough iron and zinc and B vitamins or enough fruits and vegetables, right? So, I mean, rapid weight loss itself, which you shouldn't be losing rapid weight on a GLP either.
Yeah, that can
1
cause
to
hair
2
loss.
pounds a week, right? Like anything that you do that loses 5 to 10 pounds a week is bad, right? So the preventable way to do it is take the minimum effective dose of the medicine that gives you the appetite suppression that you need, but doesn't knock it out where you get nutrient deficient.
Yeah. So if you're at a point where you can barely eat, which will guarantee that you won't be able to get the nutrients that you need, then that is not the goal.
Yeah, you want the minimum effective dose, just like you do with everything else, and adequate nutrition. And you want to make sure that when you do eat, you're prioritizing protein containing foods built around nutrients, right? And then your resistance training to make sure that you're not losing that muscle mass. So, I mean, depending on your medical history, you should probably have labs monitored for some of these things too if you're losing weight dramatically. Like, I don't automatically prescribe a bunch of supplements to people that are on a GLP-1 because if I'm prescribing a GLP-1, I'm not giving you that big of a dose. You should not be having those side effects.
Yeah. Yeah. And also we need to make sure that like protein has to be prioritized
No matter
specifically.
what.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Okay. Next question. It's our last one. This is about bedtime snacking, right? So we've talked before about, you know, setting our window of not having any eating that happens like ideally 3 hours before bed. But this is another example of like conflicting advice, right? So, why do some perimenopause experts advise having a snack before bed when others suggest that fasting 3 to 4 hours before sleep is necessary? And how can the suggestions be so different for the same population?
Well, one perimenopausal person is not identical to the next. That's why. But here's the thing. In an ideal world, you eat sun up to sundown and you're not eating 3 hours, a few hours before bed because your body needs to digest that food in order to get good deep sleep. But we don't live in that world. And sometimes women have really high stress and they need a snack before bed to make their blood sugar stable. So it all depends on what your blood sugar is doing throughout the night. And you're not going to know that without having a CGM. And this is one of the biggest issues you see with health content online. Like one person says this and it turns into all women need it. But you have to look at the two recommendations. Like there can be good advantages to eating larger meals before bed. There can be huge disadvantages too, especially for someone that has reflux or sleep issues and stuff like that. And eating a big meal before bed is just not good for your metabolic health. But it doesn't mean everyone has to have this rigid 3 to 4 hour fasting window. Like I eat a
Yeah. So,
snack before bed because
like who benefits from a snack versus who doesn't?
I eat dinner at 4 o'clock because I'm starving. Like if you're someone that worked out later in the day and you need your nutrition before bed, if you're someone that's struggling to meet your energy requirements, or you're someone like who literally wakes up because of a blood sugar issue, a small balanced snack can be completely reasonable.
Yeah. And that's very important. Like a balanced snack. We're not talking about like, oh, we'll have ice cream before we go to bed.
No, you're talking like Greek yogurt and berries or cottage cheese and fruit or an apple with nut butter, like something that contains protein and fiber.
Yeah. Yeah. And if your sleep routine is fine and you're not hungry before bed, then don't do it.
Then you shouldn't be eating before bed. Yeah. But likewise, if you're eating a small snack at 8:30 helps you sleep wonderfully, then don't panic because someone told you that it's going to destroy your metabolism.
Right. Again, it's don't subscribe to fear mongering, essentially. Like go based on the data that your body is providing or that you've collected for yourself or that you've worked with somebody to collect.
I think when you're looking at any of this stuff, like ask yourself, what problem am I trying to solve? And that question can really eliminate the amount of confusion that you have.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that caps off all of our questions for this round of Ask Us Anything. So I think the theme running through almost everything today is, that we can think that most health lessons are applicable to all people, but there's not. There's a lot of nuance, and it's like don't chase every recommendation that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's context. Ask yourself, what problem am I trying to solve? And then put it all into context.
Yeah, and if you want to add something from the coaching side, then I think it's important that like knowing the science and implementing the science are two very different things. So you can know that you need more protein and still not be eating it, right? That's where coaching comes in. You can know that resistance training is really important, that you need this progressive overload, but you might be really struggling to make that happen for yourself. Or you can understand, conceptually why sleep matters so much and that, I really need to do this, but I'm scrolling every night until midnight. So it's like
Right.
match. You can understand this and get all the information from this podcast in the world, but it's like, okay, what are we taking action on? And can I understand if this is an implementation problem? And that's where coaching is really, really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, healthcare is great. It identifies diseases and interprets labs and all that type of stuff. But a lot of times you really need a coach to translate that into a plan that you can actually execute on a Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah. So like don't worry about just memorizing all these, random health facts that are coming through on your Instagram feed, ladies. Like just get down to the basics of like what am I doing that I know will really benefit me, and the things that I'm not clear on, can I seek out trusted quality advice around it?
Yeah. So as always, drop us your questions. We love doing these types of episodes. Share it with a friend if there was something that we talked about that resonated with you, and we will see you next week.
See you next time.
Bye.